Hello guys, welcome back to the channel. So today, as the thumbnail suggests, let's talk Ubisoft. More importantly, let's talk about how the fall of Ubisoft could be potentially the turning point where gaming companies and gaming developers stop making rubbish and start making good games again.
Who the fuck starts a conversation like that? I just sat down.
So, to start off, let's start at the one thing these gaming companies love more, even more than pushing agendas and rushing games out, and that is money. So, Ubisoft stocks plummeted. I put a post up I think it was a couple of months ago, just a picture showing how much Ubisoft stocks have dropped. But let's have a little deeper look at that. So 2018, Ubisoft stocks were at their highest. I think it was the highest, at just over €100 a piece. I think it was 100.4 or 100.5 euros. Now, scroll forward to 2024, and the stocks prices have plummeted so much that the stock price for Ubisoft now sits at just over €10. I think it's 10.4 or 10.5.
Are you serious?
So they've literally decimated their own stock prices. They've literally destroyed their own finances.
Fucking hell. Is this my reward for believing the best about men? For thinking that a bilge rat like you could muster up some fucking sense once in a while?
In less than a decade. Now, there is multiple reasons why this has happened. But the two biggest ones are Star Wars Outlaws and Assassin's Creed Shadows. Now, Star Wars Outlaws, when it first got announced, I was excited for it. This was before they'd even put any pictures out or anything. When it first got announced, I was excited for it because, one, it's Star Wars. I mean, how can you mess a Star Wars game up? And two, it was open world Star Wars game. How can you mess it up? But they managed it. Ubisoft managed to mess a Star Wars game up, and compared to other games that they've released in the last decade, in the last 10 years, I'm thinking the Assassin's Creed, Origins, Odyssey and Valhalla. Visually, whether you loved them or hate them, I liked all three of them. There was things I disliked about them, but the likes outweighed the dislikes. But whether you like them or not, the RPG era, you cannot deny that they did make them look really good. I thought they looked spectacular, especially Origins. Origins is my favourite out of the three. But when you look at the graphics on that, and then I think the downgrade of the graphics started with AC Mirage. That was a downgrade graphically from all three of the RPGs. And then we got Star Wars Outlaws, which was an even further downgrade from Assassin's Creed Mirage. I don't know how they managed to make it look so bad, but I've seen people comparing it on YouTube to comparing it with AC Black Flags, and how a game that's 10 or over 10 years old looks just as good graphically as Star Wars Outlaws does. I just thought that was funny. But that's where it started. That's where the stocks started to really drop when that come out. And then we've got the actual meat and two veg of it, which is Assassin's Creed, which is obviously Ubisoft's biggest IP, the whole franchise. Now, Ubisoft, their investors aren't happy with them. Their investors have got an internal investigation going on.
Now you see now, you done fucked up, you know that, don't you?
And I mean, I don't know why they need an investigation to figure out what's gone wrong with Ubisoft. I mean, it doesn't take the FBI or MI6 or MI5 to figure out, oh, what's gone wrong at Ubisoft. They've downgraded graphics, they're making story-driven games that make no sense. They're just putting too much bloat in the games. It's just all gone downhill. There is no need for an investigation to see what's happening to Ubisoft. It's as plain to see as the nose on your face. And mine is particularly large, so mine's a little bit easier to see maybe. But maybe they don't have noses at Ubisoft. Maybe they just can't see the wood for the trees. I don't know. So there's people saying around on YouTube and on Reddit and Twitch and all that stuff that the reason it's been postponed until February, which just so happens to incidentally coincide with Black History Month, like Black History Month's gonna save Assassin's Creed Shadows, that they've put it off till February so they can polish and refine the game because they've learned the lessons from Star Wars Outlaws. No, they haven't, obviously. Yeah, so there's people saying well, Ubisoft have said that's why it's been postponed till next year, so they can polish and refine the game because they've learned the lessons from Star Wars Outlaws and how much how did they word it? Underperformed. No, it bombed. There's a difference. It sold less than Assassin's Creed Mirage, and that didn't sell particularly well. And then there's other people saying it's been postponed because they're gonna either completely erase Yasuke as the main protagonist or lessen his impact in the game. Now, would that be a good idea? I personally think it would, and not because I'm a racist, because I don't think it's racist to want, in a gaming franchise where the main protagonist has always been, from day one up until now, a perfect representation of the time and place the game is set. It's not racist. We know what we like. Do you know what I mean? Yeah, so I think it would be a good idea if they did. And I mean, I don't think they should completely erase Yasuke or Yasuke, whatever his name is, from the game. Just don't have him as the main protagonist. Give us the Japanese samurai we've been wanting for 15 years. You know what I mean? Yeah, have Yasuke in it. Assassin's Creed from day one has always had historical figures in the game. You just don't have to play the entirety of the game as them. So keep them in the game. Have them as a side quest or someone who you interact with throughout the game who helps you with missions or you help him out with stuff. Do you know what I mean? Don't completely get rid of him. Keep him there as he should have been. A side character or just a general historical person in the game like we've had in many others. So I do think it would be a good idea if they did it. But they've postponed it or delayed it until February. Now that's 5 months from October. So they've got 5 full months. Do you honestly think they're going to want to pump even more money into this IP to erase Yasuke as the main protagonist, hire a new voice artist, create a new main protagonist, and then go through the entirety of the story to erase all interactions and replace them with a new protagonist and not Yasuke? I don't think it's going to happen. They haven't got the time. They haven't got the time for 5 months to do all that work to get every interaction changed in the entirety of the game. They just haven't got the time. And I very much doubt the investors or Ubisoft want to pump even more money into what is predicting to be a failure, even more of a failure than Star Wars Outlaws, which I did have. I bought it on release, physical copy as always, because physical media rules. I played it and I got to the end and I just thought, how can, because I'd seen all the previews and I thought, come on, it can't be that bad. Famous last words. I got to the end of it and I thought, how can you mess up a Star Wars game like that? How can you make a game in 2024 look as bad as Star Wars Outlaws does? Do you know what I mean? I've seen people on, like I said, I've seen people on YouTube comparing it with Assassin's Creed Black Flags and how the graphics look similar. Do you know what I mean? How visually it looks similar. And that's a 10-year-old game. So I do think it would be a good idea if they not erased Yasuke, but just didn't have him as the main protagonist and had him as a historical figure that you interact with throughout the game. But let's say they've only given themselves 5 months, and I don't think that's enough time to replace the main protagonist, go through the entirety of the game and fix all the dialogue. I just don't think they've got enough time, and I don't think they're going to want to postpone it any further than February. They just couldn't afford to. They've pumped an obscene amount of money into this game and it's already looking like it's going to fail. I mean, if they did replace Yasuke as the main protagonist with a proper Japanese samurai, then it'd probably sell a lot better. I don't know whether it'd sell as good as some of the other Assassin's Creed games. I just don't. I don't think it'd sell as many copies as any of the RPG ones. I just don't think it's gonna... I just can't see it happening. Yeah, so they've delayed it until February 25, and they've got some competition that year because GTA 6 is supposed to be coming out next year. So, and there's already a good few games coming out in February as well, actually. Kingdom Come and a couple of others I can't remember now off the top of my head. I didn't write them down on my notes. But let's get into my thoughts on this. Now, none of us, I'm assuming none of us really want to see one of the big game developers or game development companies going bust because they've just decided to push agendas and throw DEI into all their games and downgrade the graphics on them all and just completely insult an entire nation. Because that's what they've done. It's got that bad with the Japanese people now. The whole controversy has made it to Japanese parliament, who stepped in and said, you just can't do this. This is going to cause... I can't remember, was it a diplomatic incident or international incident? I can't remember which one it was, but it's going to cause one of them. Yeah, so like I say, none of us want to see one of the big ones go bust. I mean, they could turn it round. Maybe not with Shadows, maybe Hex would be the one that turns it round. I can't see Infinity doing it, because Infinity's just Ubisoft trying to move away from from physical games. They could turn it round. I don't think, like I say, I don't think it's going to be Shadows. It's probably going to be Hex if anything turns it round. But if one of them is going to go bust, to make the change or make the move in gaming that we all want, which is for gaming companies to make games that are good, brilliant story-driven games and stop pushing agendas, then it's going to have to be one of the big ones that goes bust. And like I say, I wouldn't wish it on no one. I wouldn't wish no one out of work. But if I was at Ubisoft now and I was working there, I'd be getting me, I'd be polishing my CV up and getting ready to send it out to other companies. But if it did happen, Ubisoft go bust, then it might send a message out to the rest of them to all the other gaming companies and gaming developers that, look, if you're not making games that people want to play, if you're pushing garbage, if you're pushing DEI, if you're making people, do you know what I mean, if you're making ugly games and putting ugly people in games, people aren't going to buy them. That might be the turning point where we start getting good games again. And don't get me wrong, there is still a few publishers that have just literally stuck the finger up to Sweet Baby Inc. and all the DEI mob. Black Myth Wukong, it's one that's waiting to be played now by me. Space Marines 2, that's probably next on my list. I can't think of any others. But we need more gaming companies to just do the same. It's as simple as that. Without one of the big ones going bust, going bankrupt, or having to sell off major IPs and struggling to make indie games anymore, do you know what I mean? No change is going to happen, and all we're going to keep getting is garbage games that nobody wants to play. Now, don't get me wrong, it's Ubisoft, do you know what I mean? I can't see them making Assassin's Creed look as bad as they made Star Wars Outlaws look. I just can't see it. Assassin's Creed's the biggest hitter, do you know what I mean? They're not going to make it look as bad as they made Outlaws look. But it's that catch-22. Do they go back to the drawing board and replace Yasuke? Or do they just double down on the DEI nonsense? Who knows? Only time will tell. There has been people have said they've heard different insiders that they're going to remove Yasuke as the main protagonist and have him as just a side character, or like one of the historical figures that you interact with throughout the game, which wouldn't be a bad thing, do you know what I mean? We've always had historical figures in Assassin's Creed games. We just haven't been forced to play as them for the entirety of the game. That's just my opinions anyway. And who am I? I'm just a mega small little YouTuber who does this as a bit of something to keep my mind occupied. Do you know what I mean? My opinions probably don't matter. They do to me. But like I say, they're just my opinions. Everyone's got opinions and they're just like arseholes. They all stink. But only time will tell which route Ubisoft decide to go. Whether they decide to give us what we want, or whether they decide to double down and plummet their stocks even further. We can only wait and see. And that's probably it for today. I think that'll do us for today. Share your comments, share your thoughts, and as always, I've been CJ, this is CJ Games, and I'll catch you in the next one.